right, here we are. Back again. Back again with more voices and more truth, and it's November 1st, Sunday. Should be hunting, but we're going to go tomorrow morning. After woke up to, 6 deer on the property and 2 bucks. Well, he was almost close to getting put in Sarah's jars. Then I decided to, nope, let him go. Let him go and grow up. He's too young yet. But anyway, got the poppy on today. Let's really even see it here. We'll move that sucker up. Sarah was telling me, she said that hardly any places are selling poppies right now. Which is a little weird. I didn't know anything about it. I'm like, what? Why not? She said, you didn't hear the uproar about how they're offending people? I'm like, what? Got to be kidding me. She says, yeah. She says there's a big thing the year before last or last year about how poppies were offensive. Who comes up with this shit? Like, seriously, things like this in society for the last few years, it's almost to the point now you got to trace it back. Trace it back to the very first person who woke up and decided they're going to start a movement for poppies to be offended, and then deal. Right? Deal. Find the source of the cancer and get rid of it. Holy shit, people. Anyway, it's a beautiful day in the world today. Right? It's a beautiful day in the world today. Now, by fluke, I came across a clip recorded by Tucker Carlson. And I know he is an avid outdoorsman, hunter and angler. And apparently, he had a moment in his home turf and his acreage where he knows every square inch of it. And he had an experience that sounds very, very familiar to experiences everybody reports here quite often. So I decided to record it on here. You can hear from him straight from the mouth. Listen to this. All right, let's have a listen to what he experienced. It's going to sound familiar to quite a few of you.
There's some spooky shit in the woods here. You know, we don't
Here's especially, I think, the deep woods here.
Big time.
If Bigfoot's alive, he's here.
There's some spiritual stuff going on around here.
I agree.
Not one person.
Too bad about the music,
And
right?
every time I hunt there, I get, these weird feelings like, I want to get the hell out of here, but I know that there are grouse in here, and this is so beautiful, and I don't really know what any of this means, because I don't really understand anything, but I just know, having spent a lot of time in the woods here, there's some very heavy stuff going on. And my dogs, a couple of times, I've had a couple dogs freak out on me in the woods at night here, and, really freak out. And you tell yourself, it's probably coyotes or moose. Moose are actually dangerous for dogs, but I don't think that's what it is. I don't know what is going on, but any honest person who spent time in the Maine woods at night will tell you there's something up there. I'm not afraid of the woods at all. Of course, I choose to be in them every day, but there's something going on, and there are tons of accounts of it.
Yeah.
From the early white settlers here, from the Passamaquoddy, the
Native American
tribe. Yeah, exactly. And it's just interesting. And only in the woods. I've never felt that way in like downtown DC and I've never heard anybody else, except my brother always talks about it. But I've never heard anybody else say it. Nobody mentions it here.
Really?
Ever. I really feel like the separation, the veil, the membrane between this world and the spiritual world is thinner in the woods. Like I
agree.
You walk into a clearing, the sun's coming down through the trees, and you're like, God created this, thank you, God. And then there are other moments where you just feel deep, like terrifying menace.
Yes.
Yes. I was snowshoeing in. I used to come up in the winter, be in Florida in the winter, come up here, spend a week hosting my show for Fox, and stay at our fishing camp. And it's probably, I don't know how far it is, half mile or something, snowshoe into the cabin from the road. And I remember walking in, one night it was like 10 o'clock at night, and in the wintertime here, the snow is so bright with the moon, it's like you don't need a flashlight.
Just walk around.
Yeah, it's wonderful. And man, I was midway down this path on my property that we've had for many years. I know every inch of it. And all of a sudden I had this feeling like, oh my gosh. Like it was pure terror. It came out of nowhere on a path I cut. So it's not like I'm in some random piece of wood. Do you know what I mean? Like I know exactly where I am. It's my cabin.
Right. You're not lost. Yeah.
The opposite of lost.
Right.
And it's not even dark. And I'm like, I felt like I was going to freak out. I had to get a hold of myself. Like, don't be a little girl. Like, settle down.
Yeah.
What is that?
There you go. What do you think of that? Anything sound familiar there? Anything sound familiar there? It's funny, he didn't say one word about the possibility of these upright, hairy beings running around and whatever. Who cares if he does or doesn't, but... I would have a conversation with him about it if he wanted. I'm sure he might be interested in hearing that there's actually thousands of people having those same experiences, plus, and the plus meaning some added experiences with it, meaning visual, right? But anyway, I don't run in that circles, although I do have mutual friends with the guy he had on as a guest. Anyway. Let's get some people heard, shall we? All right. This is titled, Killing Two Sabe. Do you know anything about Justin Smedja and the two Sabe he allegedly killed, one mother and one juvenile? Then he sent the samples to Melba Ketchum for DNA and also passed a polygraph test? Scott Carpenter spoke on it, but didn't really give us details. I also would like to ask, but not sure if you've ever spoken on it. But have you heard anything about Bobby Short speaking on people killing these creatures and cutting off their heads and hands, feet for trophies? It supposedly happened around the time of the Patty film, and these people allowed the two men to film Patty before they killed her. Is there any truth to any of this? Steve, thank you for all you do, trying to expose the international lies we've been told on our history and the things you and Sarah do for the kids. You're definitely a man's man and are appreciated by many. And on a lighter note, how about I pull up to your gate and toot the horn because I'm respectful and not stupid enough to go behind your closed gate and you can take me to catch a steelhead. I live in southern Georgia. I've never caught anything like that. Next time you go to Bama, you might as well come over here to South Georgia. I can take you to catch our kind of fish, or if you come during deer season, I can put you on a nice whitetail. There's no Canadian whitetails the size of cows, but we got some nice ones. Again, thanks for all you do. Wyman Martin. Wyman, you're a good man, Wyman. Appreciate the invites big time, and believe me, if the stars line up, I'm there. And if the stars line up, come fishing with me, all right? Now, this is all I know, you guys, all right? This is all I know. I got no secrets from all of you. I mean, I've got lots of stuff told to me in confidence. People say, don't share this publicly. Okay. And out of respect for them, I don't share it. Nothing overly outrageous, I don't think. But anyway, this is all I know. When I first decided to speak publicly that I knew and I've seen, and it's not a lie, a lot of the so-called big names came dog piling on me because I got a lot of attention. A lot of people, brand new fresh face and a professional big game guy. Woo! Man, do we need him to be on our team, right? Anyway. Well, back in those early days, there's a handful of people here that you're all familiar with. And they were informing me that, yes, allegedly they did kill the Patty Sasquatch. Was I there? No. And but they also shared with me, and I looked into it, and I found other details of a lot of the people involved in the Patty film that were pretty dark. Dark pass with receipts, not hearsay, which gives you a little bit of a, huh? All right, put that on a shelf back there, right? Note taken. But anyway, at that time, what they were planning on doing was allegedly the wife of Roger Patterson allegedly has the trophy pieces from that incident and was willing to come forward and share. It's going to share through me. Why me? I don't know. Probably because I was the new hot young ticket. Not young, but I mean the new ticket online, getting a lot of attention. And no bullshit. And then all of a sudden, well, allegedly they backed out and chickened out. Okay, I don't give a shit either way. I don't care either way. So that's what I can tell you about that. Okay, that's all I know. Justin Smedja, he used to be on my blacktail deer hunting page I created on Facebook, which is a large following. excuse me, I never spoke to him directly about this topic, but I did watch his interview. I did speak to Melba about him. Spoke to Scott about him. I spoke to a couple of other people who knew him about the incident. And I looked into it. And do I believe he shot 2 of them? Yes, I do. Do I believe that Melba received samples? Yes, I do. And I do know that one particular sample she received was she was actually worried about possibly a homicide case coming from this. Right? Anyway, I guess what he was doing, the federal government came after him, and if he went through with his story, I do believe he would have put himself in deeper trouble with the Fish and Game. I think because he wasn't supposed to be bear hunting, and he was, or he wasn't, either what he was doing, aside from his Sasquatch encounter, was not legal, I believe. And he had to change his story to save his ass. And I think in the long run, he was under a lot of pressure to make that story go away and stop it. That's all I know, okay? Do I believe his original story is true? Yeah, I do. Yes, I do. I looked into everything from all different angles. I don't let anybody tell me nothing. And what I came to the conclusion for me, oh yeah, he killed him. He killed them. And the government shut him down successfully again. There you go. Appreciate you, man. Hope you're still here watching. But that's all I got. That's all I know. There's another email. This next one is titled, Another Sighting at Fort Indiantown Gap in PA. Good afternoon, Steve. Oh, there's dog hairs floating around in here. Good afternoon, Steve. Watched your channel for years, but was floored to hear of a viewer mention a sighting on an Army Reserve base called Fort Indiantown Gap in central PA. I had an unusual sighting in August of 2022 that I never could explain. I drive a truck, and Route 81 runs along the outskirts of the fort's property. Farmland and corn are mainly what you see. It was twilight, with about 1/2 hour left of light. I was driving north and looked left at the planted hillside that had corn on it. The field was probably a mile away when all at once, 3 deer burst into the field from near the top. 2 angled slightly down, but the third angled sharply down. They were all moving left to right. Then, about 25 yards behind, a huge black being enters the field in obvious pursuit. I said out loud, "What the F is that?" I slowed my truck down to see this. The deer would disappear and reappear as they jumped through the corn. This thing ran with both arms outstretched. The corn reached its chest. The 2 deer angled up to the upper right corner of the field. The third deer saw this and changed direction to follow them. This being took a course to intercept that deer. And as the being was moving, it just seemed to move effortlessly through the field. No dips, no swerves, nothing. As the deer veered up, it just made it past the outstretched arms of that being, and the whole chase continued up and out of sight on the upper right side of the field. I go past this field every day, and I've never seen anything ever since. I stopped one day because I couldn't wrap my head around the potential. Oh, sorry. I stopped one day. I think you must have meant you stopped that day because I couldn't wrap my head around the potential size of this thing. Oh, I get it. You did stop one day. Sorry. I walked up to the corn that was planted the next year, and it towered over me in August. I'm 6'1". I never mentioned us to a soul about this, but when I heard someone else saw something in that area, I wanted to let it out. Please don't use my last name. Okay, Tom, gotcha. Interesting, right? The one thing I find interesting with those patterns of them chasing something down for a snack while they're here is the speed that's been documented by potentially thousands of eyewitnesses. How they describe the speed, these beings should be able to just go grab one like that. Not much chasing involved, from what I understand. But then we got had another guy in a tree stand who had some hogs on the ground underneath the stand, and all of a sudden he saw a huge 8-foot, I remember it was 8-foot tall, black hair covered female being stalking, going tree to tree to tree to tree, and then I think the way he described it, launched almost like a frog, like with the limbs and everything in the stance of a frog, leaping and blasting forward, and literally was so fast it smacked the hog and smacked it into the tree and bounced off the tree, and the impact on the tree killed it. That's some speed, right? And then what else? Another account we've had, somebody said that one of these beings basically made a huge, loud, sharp bark sound, which froze the deer in place and just walked up and grabbed it by the neck and took off with it. Right? I mean, if they can do that, why don't they do that every time? Or is it the same flavor of being that's chasing the game down? I have a funny feeling it's not. I think there's a few different odd things going on, don't you? And then we got the elk hunters. I think Dave noted this one. Elk hunters witnessed an elk being picked up by something they couldn't see and going up off of the ground into the sky, up through the trees. They just disappeared through the trees, up in the air, without anything holding onto it. What? And of course, you've got the mutilations going on, cattle mutilations, right? But the one thing, though, it just sounds odd. Well, then you got the other guy who hunts up near where I hunt up north, and him and his friend ran into that large, by the sounds of it, probably a male Sasquatch was in the timber hunting the same herd of elk they were, stalking in on it. So it's just odd for me, as I'm looking for the patterns and everything. I always take note of how fast they are, how easily they can just basically run out and grab a game animal. But then you have incidents of people witnessing them being in stealth mode, stalking the game animal. I don't get it. Unless there's different flavors of beings out there with different levels of skills, right? Crazy. Excuse me. You know, it's like, which one is it? You can bark and use your voice to freeze a game animal, walk up and grab it, or you have to chase it down. Or you're so fast you can literally catch it in 2 seconds. You know, or can you go invisible and strangle it and pick it up in the air? Do you know what I mean? There's so much going on. It's so confusing for me. What a wild thing to witness. Another time we had somebody else who emailed in about watching 3 of these beings stalking the same herd of elk until they saw him. Then they all grouped together behind a big boulder or something. Why do they have to go into stealth mode when they have all these skills? This next email is titled, "It Went Through Us in Waves." Hi Steve, my name is Brian. I've enjoyed your content for some time, and I truly appreciate others sharing their experiences on this topic and this reality. I will soon retire with 30 years of law enforcement, 15 of which I spent investigating major crimes. Detail and nuance are key to clarity, understanding, and truth. Your community delivers that in abundance. This channel has prompted me to share a brief story about my experience. I'd never discussed it with anyone, not even my wife of 29 years until recently. This isn't a first. We've had so many people come forward here for the first time without even telling anybody. That's a good thing, right? This incident occurred in the summer of 1994. It happened in the northern Piedmont region in North Carolina. The area was agrarian, but peppered with foothills, a river, and other bold creeks. A friend/coworker and I returned from taking college night classes to our employer's rural property to retrieve my vehicle sometime well after 11 p.m. We stood in the driveway and talked casually with the benefit of a distant and dimly lit yard light to our left. There was no moonlight out and it was dark. And as we talked about nothing particularly important, we heard heavy movement to our right on an adjacent property. Understand that what got our full attention was not consistent with a white-tailed deer, a person, or a black bear. We talked while glancing curiously in that direction. And after a few moments, it happened again and was more pronounced. We simultaneously stopped and faced what, in retrospect, may have been a growl. I said, quote, "I'm going to go over and look over there." My friend said, "What was that?" with trepidation. We both walked cautiously toward the building, much further now from the light source I mentioned. Nearly shoulder to shoulder, we closed the distance and stood about 20 feet from the structure and stopped. At that instant, the most deafening guttural roar/scream blasted from the darkness beside the structure. I've never heard anything like this in my life. It went through us in undulating waves. Its resonance and vibrations were disorientating. I never appreciated the second, but simultaneous quality until you recounted the community's experiences. An accompanying absolute terror/fear was part of this blast. Managing fear is a tool in my trade, but this was a different animal, pun intended. We were knocking one another down literally as we ran like hell back to our original position. In short, we jumped into our cars, and I'll tell you that a 5-liter Mustang GT won't get you away from that situation fast enough. The next day we inspected the area but found nothing obvious, to us at least. After finding your channel, I searched for audio of Sasquatch screams, and I found one quickly that was exactly what I heard. Only this being was cloaked in the darkness only 30 feet from us. I listened to it 25 times in a row as the hair stood on my neck. There it is. It happened to me. Take from what you will. I learned long ago that we were given 2 ears and 1 mouth. We should listen more than we speak. I know what it was. Carry on, brother Brian. And thank you, brother Brian. I really appreciate you coming forward, man, and sharing that. And you know you're not alone, right? And you know it's a huge pattern here in the real world. No way out of it. No way out of it. Excuse me. Next is seeing Bigfoot as a 15-year-old boy. It's May 12th, 2025. I'm sitting here in my living room in Mexico, where I now live, and I'm watching your video, and you said that you've seen it as a boy. So, I thought I would go ahead and tell my story. Right on, man. I was born in central Iowa on a farm, and at 5 years old, I had a lever-action BB gun. Also had a knife and hatchet combo that hung to my knees when I had it on my belt. At age 6 at Christmas, my folks gave me a single-shot lever-action .22 short. The next year in summer, when I was 7 years old, my mother, where she worked, bought a 16-gauge single shot and gave it to me. I can't remember how many days after I did the chores I would saddle my pony and take my dog with one of the guns, usually the .22, if not just my knife and hatchet, and off into the back part of the farm, 360 acres, to go messing around, and I wouldn't return until after dark. All my father ever told me was, "Don't mess up or I'll give you a beating that you'll never forget and break your gun." Never took me out to shoot it, show me anything about it. Wow. At 8 years old, my mother divorced my father, and my mom and older sister and I moved to South Texas. She married another man, a good stepfather. Lottery win. I had 2 new friends that knew how to hunt, and so the 3 of us convinced their folks and mine, which weren't too hard to convince since they knew me. My stepfather would take us out Friday after school, drop us off out in the country, back then known as Texas Gardens, full of orchards and irrigation canals with just our shotguns, and we would survive. This sounds familiar. May have read this long back in the day, but oh well. Shoot rabbits, birds, whatever we could eat. And we would until they came to pick us up at the same spot Sunday late afternoon. South Texas was great to grow up. You could go out hunting or fishing every day of the week, year-round pretty much, and I usually did with a couple of other friends. What a hoot. What a hoot. All right, enough about me. So, you know I've been hunting for a while already, and I do know animals and the sounds they make, the tracks they leave when I go hunting for them. At 15 years old, I was hanging with my 3 other friends. We had a stupid idea to run away from home and go to Florida and work on one of the friends, Joe's, uncle's shrimp boat. So one Monday morning, the four of us take off in Steven's sister's car that he took without permission. So off we go. I'll try to make a long story a little shorter. After 2 days, we start getting worried that the police are looking for us. Our parents are worried everybody's got an APB out on us, so we start taking back roads to Florida. What? That night, we're on the back roads in Mississippi. I remember late afternoon, he was driving and actually seeing a working prison chain gang working on the side of the road. We stopped at a little convenience store out in the middle of nowhere, got gas and an 8-pack of cinnamon rolls to eat that night. That's all we could afford. We were driving down a dark farm to Market Road. We were driving down a dark farm to Market Road, found a little area to pull over and park for the evening. We were all sleeping. I'm on the passenger side on the back, and I don't remember exactly what time of morning it was, 3, 4, 5. But something woke me up. I turned to my left, looked over at Doug, and seen something large and dark step over the barbed wire fence, which was right next to the brush line, about 20 feet from the car. At this point, I truly didn't know if I was dreaming, sleeping, or awake. I blinked my eyes. The next thing I realized, it is standing right next to the window by Doug. I hollered, "What the F?" After that, everything happened so fast, but what I remember correctly, I said it is an effing Bigfoot. Doug's awake, screaming the same thing. The car moves, I think from us startling it, and it pushed against the car. The next thing I realized, Steven is already awake, got the car started, dropped it in drive, and is punching it out of there, turns on the headlights. The next thing I know, I'm leaning forward, hollering at Steven, who's already doing 100, to slow down. Doug and I are all screaming. It was an effing Bigfoot. It had to be. There's nothing that could have moved that car like that. The car like that. We did not stop driving till we got to Florida. I went down on the beach and parked for the evening, and we all started talking about it. Once we built a fire, Steven and Joe even asked if I shook the car like that to scare everybody, so I went over and could not shake the car like that, even from the outside. And Doug is also saying it was 4 inches from my face. But in reality, all Doug and I could see was lower body. We talked about it for hours that night around the campfire. We didn't even eat that night. I'm not sure they told their families. I told mine, and everybody just shrugged it off like, yeah, you're seeing things. You're seeing things. That evening, for me, changed my life. Ended up the other 3 friends, we grew apart after about 6 months of returning. Never really talked to each other much after that. I continued to hunt and fish until I was about 60. I'm now 67. The reason I stopped, 2 bad knees and a busted up right shoulder. But I never went hunting or camping without being armed. Even when setting up blinds in the summer, scouting out places, always had a pistol. Always. Not that it would have done much good, sounds like. But it made me look at things different, even fishing offshore. I'm always thinking about all the possibilities that could be out there, since these guys do exist. What the hell else is out there? Realizing that at 15 really did suck, because I know what I seen that night. In about 1 minute, nothing will ever change my mind on that. And P.S. a couple of times hunting outside of Johnson City, Texas, I did feel something was watching me a couple of times down by the river. Never heard or seen anything. I'm actually glad I never have seen one again. Well, that's my story. I love your channel. I think we're brothers from another mother. You made comments that I've made exactly on a number of things. Once again, comes down to common sense and truth. RKD. There you go. Quite the story, quite the adventure. Funny and scary. And a full-on nothing but patterns there. Coming from many people who've had the same shit happen. Appreciate you, man. I hope you're still with us. Watching and learning. Here's another one. shock and awe, then fear. My encounter was in 1978. I'm now 68 years old. I was in a rowboat about 40 to 50 feet from shore, and it was summer, early morning, mist on the pond, but not a heavy mist. I heard water spilling like someone was drinking and spilling some of it. I was looking at an overgrown beach with huge boulders to the right, or so I thought, until one of the larger boulders stood up. That was the shock and awe part, because I then knew what I was looking at. It stood up about 7 to 8 feet tall. It didn't make any sounds. It started to walk towards the woodline, turned to look at me, and at that time I noticed a very young one clung to its chest like monkeys do. It then proceeded to walk into the woods. I heard no sound after it entered the tree line, and then the fear kicked in. And I have a loss of time from that moment that I realized what I had witnessed until I got home several hours later. This happened at Schwarzwood Lake, northern New Jersey, near the Pennsylvania line. I've been watching your channel every day since I found it, and could only afford the minimum $2.99 to join. Well, just so you know, you don't have to join to watch. You join and you feed kids, okay? And I appreciate that big time. This is the most informative place to explain my story. There is more to it, and can share it at another time if you want to hear it. My name is Steve B., and I've been living in Connecticut since 1980. You can share my name. I hope that your future solo hunting trips are safe. And unlike most people, I do not want to see it again. Looks like a beautiful place for you to live. From the pictures I've seen on your channel, it must be nice to be able to walk to a river and fish for steelhead. May God bless you and your family going forward. And you too, my man. You too. Stephen Borum. I do want to hear more, and I will mark this as look into. And we'll see if Sarah can get a hold of you. Maybe we'll have a chat on here if you want. I'm all over it. Appreciate that, man. Welcome to the club. What do we got? Another quick note. Get this one. Quick note, no rant. Yesterday we went to the feed store. Drove to a feed store in the next town over. I don't know, 40 minutes away or something. And we're buying some oats. And I bought some ivermectin. 2 horse dewormers for the horses. We already have enough in the house to probably supply our entire town. Anyway, the girl said she needed our phone number in details, and Sarah got all, not aggressive, but Sarah sparked up. She's like, "What for?" And she goes and gets a folder, and it's British Government of British Columbia forms, and the government requires them to take down the personal information of who's buying in ivermectin. Oh boy. How amazing is that? Dark, sinister bastards. Oh boy. Moving along. All right, here we go. Ooh, this is a long one. No biggie, not too long. I got this. We're going in. Yeah, the government wants to know who's buying ivermectin. It chased us out of the woods. It's the title of this email. I believe it's the year 2009. My best friend, we'll call her JJ, and I live in Idaho, but we went to visit my old stomping ground where I did a lot of my growing up in Utah. We went on a double date with my boyfriend from back in middle school. We'll call him M. Both guys were your typical jocks. I believe I had just barely graduated in high school, same as my friend's date. We'll call him A. And my friend and my date were seniors in high school, and all 4 of us were in our prime and very athletic. You'll understand why I mention this further down the story. And after driving around and not finding much to do, we decided it might be fun to go for a hike up the canyon in Utah County. Started out great, flirting and laughing and teasing one another as we went up the trail. This made the time go by so quickly, and without realizing, we had hiked well into the canyon. I remember feeling suddenly startled by a couple of things. First, realizing how far into the woods we were as the sun was quickly fading over the mountain. And the second thing that startled me was the daunting feeling that overcame me that we needed to turn back now. At the time, I was an extremely brave girl. There was no horror movie or haunted house that could scare me. And I also once used to live in a remote little town in the mountains of northern Idaho for some time, and my backyard was the forest. I would run around the woods playing in the dark with no fear. And I didn't know much about Bigfoot, other than I didn't really believe in him. We realized we would be hiking back ill-prepared, in the dark, with no flashlights. But the moon must have been shining just enough. We started back down this canyon where the trail varied in between narrow and wide, with a bit of drop-off on the side of the trail to the river stream. That unsettled feeling was bothering me. But I had always prided myself that no horror movie with creepy girls crawling out of TVs, wells, and making scary croaking sounds, no haunted house or swamp, nor any other thing could scare me. So I tried to brush that unsettled feeling off by turning those feelings into a joke. My goal then became to scare my best friend JJ with her guy, A, so M and I would walk real fast or run a little so we could get ahead of the trail and hide. Then wait for JJ and A to come walking by and jump out and scare the shit out of them. It was pretty amusing to hear my best friend scream, but even more so her date, A, with the frame of a defensive lineman screaming bloody murder like a girl. Yes. Em and I did that several times until it started losing its effect. And then we rejoined them. After a while longer down the dark trail, I realized JJ kept turning her head back from that point on. She didn't say anything for a while, but after a few more head turns and stares, she said quietly to me, "Look behind. There's something following us." And I laughed and I said, "Yeah, nice try, JJ." She didn't respond for a while, which I found odd. She's not a quiet or a serious person. A few moments later, then said, "No, seriously." I still didn't give in. After all, I heard nothing coming. We kept walking, and I could tell she was starting to get very concerned and anxious. I finally looked back, and sure enough, on our trail was a big black figure. It seemed far away at the moment, but I automatically knew without a doubt this was the source of my uneasiness earlier, and my stomach started to turn. We led by speed walking much faster. I would turn my head every now and then and noticed it was gaining on us, but I couldn't hear anything, and I thought that's strange. I turned my head again and said to the guys, "She's actually not kidding, look." And JJ exclaimed, "Guys, something is seriously following us." The boys turned around once, and that was all it took for them to decide to book it on out of there. Had we not been two athletes ourselves, the guys would have left us in the dust. No, shit, that's not good. Shitty backup sucks. Said it before. We weren't losing this thing, so we got to the point where we were running as fast as humanly possible, which was dangerous, where we were in the dark. We were extremely noisy the whole hike, and the screams, I think, is what attracted whatever was following us. Whatever it was bipedal. The size kept throwing me off. You know how you look into the mirror of a car and it says objects are closer than they appear? It was confusingly off-putting like that. Only likely opposite. I felt like I couldn't ever get a correct gauge on how far it really was behind us, nor exactly just how big it was. All I knew is that its dark silhouette was huge, and it was definitely after us. My mind at that time wasn't thinking Bigfoot. I didn't know much about them, let alone believe in them. My teenage mind was thinking doing more along the lines of a giant human axe murderer. For a person to be in the middle of the woods in the dark by themselves, chasing what he probably thought was a bunch of teenage screaming girls, was utterly terrifying. There was absolutely nothing good coming from that. I knew it. It had nefarious intentions, and that if that thing had caught up to us, I wouldn't be telling the story right now. We were prey, and we ran out of that mountain canyon as fast as we could. We finally were almost out, and we were immediately greeted out of that trap and into another. There's a police car waiting for us. He noticed the vacant vehicle, so we were eagerly trying to get to. He noticed the vacant vehicle we were so eagerly trying to get to. At first, I was so relieved. Thank goodness this cop is here to save us. We ran right up to him, and we were all speed talking all at once, trying to explain that there's something big out there that had chased us out of the mountain, and it was right behind us, and needed to get out of there. My innocent mind thought maybe he'd call in some reinforcement to go find whatever it was, but instead, apparently, thought the four of us were on drugs, and he demanded to see everyone's ID. I didn't have mine on me, and he really didn't like that answer. He looked all of us up to make sure we didn't have a record that he assumed we had, but we were all very good kids. There, right at the exit of that trail, we had to wait outside what felt like forever in the dark, like sitting ducks feeling vulnerable from whatever was out there, probably still watching us until the police officer finally let us go. I was desperate to get back into our car and leave. It had scared us so badly that we left that place and never spoke of it to anyone until recently. I've been watching Bigfoot documentaries and shows. While watching those and hearing them describe them and how they seem to be attracted to women. How quiet and quick and stealthy they can be if they want to be. It reminded me of that day so many years ago, but at this point I had started to wonder if my memory skewed things. Did this really actually happen? This couldn't have happened. Did I imagine this? Did I dream it up? The memory was burned into me, but I questioned it anyway. It bothered me for a good week until I finally got brave enough to ask my friend JJ. And after that happened, we never spoke of it again until recently. Well over a decade now, close to 2. After we reminisced about that time and what that thing could have possibly been. And this was her response, quote, "Man, whatever it was not going to let us out unharmed. Probably not even alive, because I've only felt that icky, intense feeling in my gut a small handful of times, and that was probably the worst I've ever felt it." I told my fiance this story after watching a Bigfoot show, and I told him I couldn't 100% be sure it was Bigfoot, but then he pointed out something I didn't even notice. He asked, well, did the thing following you have any light coming from a phone or a flashlight? And the answer to that is no. A human giant who can run light on his feet in the middle of nowhere in the forest canyon with no light on him sounds almost crazier than any other possible explanation. I don't know if any one of the four of us could tell you what exactly it was, but I know we can all agree if it had caught up to us, we would not be here. Some of the most authentic, well-captured videos of Bigfoot are caught in the same mountains, just a canyon over in Provo, Utah. There you go, bingo. There's one on the top of a mountaintop that reminds me of the figure that was after us, just adding to the likely possibility that it was a Bigfoot. Now I'm fascinated, and I have watched every show and documentary there is to see, but I'll never physically go looking for them after what happened. Being in the mountains is my happy place, but I'd be lying if I didn't say I actually get scared now come dark. End of email. There you go. Well written. Appreciate that. Welcome to the club. You know what it was. You know what it was. It's funny how many people become obsessed, right? A lot of people become obsessed with the topic once they have their encounter, and then other people just clam up and go into withdrawal from everything. It's funny, I never really ever became obsessed myself when I first became aware. I was more confused, I guess, for quite a while. Yeah, I was definitely confused, and I did look into it on my own without talking to anybody about it when I was a kid, after I had that dude right there looking at me. It wasn't until I was 25 years old, and then my grandfather, 24, 25, 26, whatever I was, and my grandfather took me aside and told me in confidence that he ran into one in broad daylight. And he wasn't going to tell me if I said I didn't believe in the reality of these beings, right? I hate the word believe. Belief. It's not a belief. It's whether or not you can accept the facts, right? Whether or not you can accept the facts and accept the evidence from, at this stage of the game, probably millions of eyewitnesses. All right, there we go. That should suffice for today. I'm going to go out and start packing my stuff to go on my big hunt, and also get ready to take Sarah into the woods tomorrow morning. That's it for emails for today. And I'll leave on one quick note. What I brought up yesterday, I believe, was one small subject. I consider it small compared to the subjects that I follow online. But one thing I've tried to share with people is to not shoot the messenger. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't matter how it shouldn't. Maybe it should at times, but at times it should or shouldn't matter how you personally feel about somebody, because everybody now and then comes up with a message. You know what I mean? It might need a little attention. Your gut says, huh? And not a big topic in my life. I'm just saying. The Charlie Kirk issue, I'm not a dumbass. The visual evidence that I was steered to via various people online, including Candace Owens, I looked at the visual evidence myself and everything going on surrounding that murder, and yeah, there's no way it was that kid. Yes, I do think something is very dark that went down behind that murder. No matter how you feel about Charlie Kirk or not, I don't give a flying shit. Nobody should. The fact of the matter is, if you can put your feelings aside, your emotions aside, and just try to take a look at it, kind of like watching the surface-to-air missile hitting the Pentagon during 9/11. Obvious, in your face, but people argue about it. I don't know why. The same as there's so much shit that's going down in our faces that many of you, meaning many people in the world, accept as, well, it happened, it's okay, no big deal. I mean, obviously the plane hit it. Nope, not Building 7. Not all the mysterious murders of the first responders that testified to hearing blasts. Like, there's a whole bunch of shit that's gone down in our faces that prove that dark forces are doing this to us regularly. And it's amazing how blatant they're getting and doing things in our face with nothing but ample video and eyewitness testimony to prove that it's not what they're trying to deliver via the mainstream. Pick up what I'm putting down? I don't got a dog in the fight, but I do know that I take note of what's going on in the world, and regardless of what messenger you may personally not agree with or that you don't like them, sometimes those people that you don't like can steer you in a direction to look for some receipts for yourself, and that's what I do, okay? So if you got upset in any way because I have a few emails from strangers I don't know saying, I can't believe you actually took Candace Owens' testimony as valid. So sad, Steve. Get your head out of your ass. Nobody tells me what's up. I listen to everyone, and if I get steered in the direction of from a possible message steers me in the direction of a receipt or two, I'm going to go check it out for me and come up to my own conclusion. And believe me, if I had to bet the farm, I would bet the farm that what mainstream is telling us went down with that one particular murder, that's not how it went down, not their narrative. No effing way. The video evidence is in your face. The video evidence. Okay? And the facts surrounding the alleged shooter. The evidence is there. The witnesses are there. Sorry. But, yeah. But there's a lot more bigger freaking fights going on the planet than just that one murder. Okay, you guys? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Anyway, take from it what you will or leave it. If you disagree with me, I don't care. I'll still fight for you. And I'll still have you in my house here for a cold beer or to sit down and have a discussion with me at the round table here. You know what I mean? We're all here together. We are all we have is each other. That's it. And nobody's coming to save your ass. Nobody. Nobody's coming to save your ass. One more quick funny one. How about, remember a handful of months ago, it was the big drone thing. There's drones in the sky over New Jersey, D.C., New York. There's drones everywhere. Remember that? I was shaking my head from the very first report. I didn't get suckered into that for 1/10 of a second. Not a tenth of a second. I was more interested in how many people were getting sucked into giving that attention. What came of it? Right? So now we got this meteorite coming. There's a meteorite. It's full of lizard people. I've had so many videos forwarded to me about what's going on with this meteorite coming towards Earth. It's got lights all over it. It's the mothership. It's got aliens on it. It's got lizard people on it, and it's coming to save the world from nuclear war, all sorts of shit. I'm not taking the bait on the meteorite thing either. Just saying. Maybe I'm wrong. But my gut's screaming, oh God, here we go again. Really, you guys? Come on. Quit trying to get our attention away from the topics that need our attention. It's not working on me. That's all I'm saying. I'll be back tomorrow, I hope.